and welcome again to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, integrity deficit disorder. We have our guest today, Adriana. Did I get that right?
Yes, Adriana.
Adriana, okay. And your last name?
Popescu.
Okay, great. And we're going to jump in here with a lot of stuff that I was reading as fast as I could. And that's good. Let's see. You are a licensed clinical psychologist. You know, clinical psychologists are the top of the totem pole. They're the ones at the top.
MDs would agree with you.
Long time ago, when I had marital problems, I had a clinical psychologist. Nothing unturned.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time ago. He was a good guy. Taught me a lot. And I'm looking at the title of your book. Now, do you blow that out to people, or do you get to it and you say, what if you're not as screwed, not as hurt?
It depends on my audience. Sometimes I say, what if you're not as effed up as you think you are, or messed up or screwed up? And some people, I just say the full 4-letter word.
To at least get their attention.
Yes, that was the idea.
And it says here, to continue that was how we come to believe lies about ourselves and what we can do to change them.
Yes.
Is that the rest of the title of the book?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Now, you've in 22, 6 months ago. That's
Yes.
good. When
Yes.
did you decide that you wanted to do this book?
For years, people have been asking me, when are you going to write a book? When are you going to write a book? And for the longest time, I have to admit, I had some resistance to it. I think when you complete a dissertation to get your PhD, that is essentially writing a book. And it's not always a fun process. I think that soured me a little bit on the writing process. And I also didn't really feel like I had anything to say yet. And then the pandemic hit, and I started getting more of an intuitive sense that maybe now is the time to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Really what this book is it's about my life's work, my personal growth, as well as my professional work. And some of the things that I've discovered in 25 years of doing this work that I wanted to finally share with the world. And I wanted to get my message that I'm already doing in my practice as a psychologist. I'm the clinical director of a drug and alcohol rehab program. I have my own podcast. So I've been trying to get this message out there that the way that we see ourselves is learned. We're not born with it. We learn it. We learn how to judge ourselves. And we come to believe these things about ourselves that I call core false beliefs that aren't even true, and yet are wreaking havoc on our lives and creating a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering. And I'd like to live in a world where there's less pain and suffering. So that was my intention. Yeah.
I heard that Dr. Fauci is looking for work. Do you have any? Maybe he could help you out.
Yes. Maybe I could help him out.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, this book will shatter your illusions and limitation and teach you how to access the clarity. And it's amazing how, at least for myself and children and people, friends, if you look at yourself and you think different than others think about you, it's what you've put out there and what they, if they like it or not, or eat it or not, whatever,
Mhm.
And that's something that I know that I've always had my guard, which basically says, don't hurt me, but I'm not going to say I'm going to, beat you up. If that's the case, I'm not not that type. Um, is that something that you do with? I assume you got the whole 180. That's so you keep an eye on them the whole time. Otherwise, it'd be 360.
Yes.
Yes. And some of those are 360s.
Yes. Well, I mean, you mentioned, something about how people often see themselves differently than other people see them,
Mhm.
right? And I'm just was reminded just last night, I had a session with a client who is having some anxiety and insecurity about her body image and went to a wedding or a certain event and was feeling really ugly and bad about herself and talking very negatively about herself. And she ended up in a conversation with another woman who she perceived to be beautiful and thin and healthy and all these things. And it turns out that beautiful, thin, healthy woman was having the same exact thoughts about herself and her body image and thinking, oh, everyone can tell I'm bloated and I don't look good and all these things. And how interesting it was for my client to have that revelation that I'm thinking I'm messed up and these people are so much greater than me and they must feel great about themselves and they're feeling the same way. And this is what I see, John, day in, day out with people is this skewed, distorted ways in which we're seeing ourselves and seeing the world.
Right, right. That's hard convincing a patient, and I was the patient at the time. It's hard to convince them that you got something to deal with. Some people just don't get there, to understand they. But then you somewhere there's a sledgehammer in your office. I know.
It's hiding under the computer so you can't see it. I
Yes,
sometimes
yes.
wish. I wish sometimes I could just shake people into seeing what I see, but unfortunately, as they say, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
That's right. Um, and it's important to keep the couples together. Do you do therapy for marital? See?
I do. I work with mostly individuals, but I have some couples in my practice. Families are a little bit much, so I don't do too much of that anymore. It's a few too many
Right.
people to deal with.
Exactly.
Yes, but I do couples work as well.
Um, where does it come along if people come to see? Let's play a game here. And we have a chart, and on the chart we have a column, and the column is age, and the age is 15 years old. And you go down there every 3 years, every 5 years, and you get up to 75 years. Okay, which of the top and the bottom is the hardest to deal with, and it's numerically in terms of age, and those that are easier to deal with.
Well, I think it really depends on the person because you certainly can have, a 75-year-old who is fully set in their ways and has no intention of changing anything and doesn't think there's even anything that needs changing. And you could
Yeah.
have a 75-year-old that's seeking greater and is open to looking at themselves and changing their life, and maybe they still have aspirations and things they want to achieve that they haven't yet, and they know something inside needs to change for them to do it. So I think it does vary individual to individual, but what I have found is that our beliefs about ourselves tend to solidify at a very young age. I mean, even from the time we're in the womb, as I write about this in the book, we're impacted by our mothers and how they everything they think and feel. We don't have a sense of separate self when we're a little fetus growing inside our mothers. And then up until about the age of 7, we're kind of in this highly hypnotizable state, which is why we believe that there's this tooth fairy, this magical tooth fairy that's going to come and give us money when we lose a tooth at night. We're very gullible and susceptible to the messages that we get as children. And I think depending on what your earliest life experiences are, that's going to impact whether you're 15 or 75 or in between, how able you are or willing you are to look at your beliefs about yourself and change them, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the way to look at it, or at least that's the way to get them to look at it, I guess is a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I most every day I wake up, look around, I'm still here, and what are we doing? What are we going to do good today? What are we going to have happen today? And here we go with this. I was thinking that I had 500,000 people in the month that they're going to be looking for me, and now you too. So, oh, by the way, one of the things that you'll deal with Mac is that he's going to be helping you with a presence on the YouTube.
Wonderful.
Yes, everybody likes that.
Yes.
And he's a good guy. Let me see. As a psychotherapist, yes, a spiritual psychotherapy. Tell me about that. You have many come for looking for spiritual along that line?
I do. Overall, I consider myself more of an energy psychologist because energy really is the common denominator across physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. But I am much more holistic in my perspective, in my studies in graduate school, in my own spiritual journey that came through the dark night of the soul. I was very ill when I was in my 20s and 30s. And that led me down a spiritual path because I wasn't finding the healing I was looking for in traditional medicine and psychology and all of that. So I have definitely developed the perspective from my personal and professional experience that whatever the issue is that we're dealing with, whether it's depression, trauma, addiction, or even a physical health issue, the diabetes, a heart condition, whatever, we have to look at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual components of that condition if a person really is wanting to heal. And I think sometimes the spiritual gets overlooked. But of course, spirituality means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but it's often not addressed in psychology. And I think that's where we're falling short. And we need to be exploring this topic with our clients because it is an important part of some people's lives. And for others, they're a little more lost. And maybe there's something missing in their life in that area that if they would develop it would actually enhance their life and help them to feel like there's more meaning and purpose and that they could experience, more joy in their life if they let that in.
Right. How many, or maybe all, do you suggest that they meditate, or do you encourage them or demand it?
I don't demand of my clients because I know that I don't like being demanded of, so I don't want to do that to anyone else. But I certainly will explore, and I have taught many people about meditation. People I think have a lot of misperceptions about meditation because there are so many different types. It isn't always about quieting the mind. Many of us have very active minds that are never going to get fully quiet. It's really more mindfulness meditation or Vipassana is the Indian tradition it comes from, is really more about cultivating an observer, a more neutral observer witnessing stance where you can observe your thoughts, you can notice your feelings, even the physical sensations in your body, but not get so reactive to them, to recognize I actually am a spirit. I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have a body that has sensations, but I am not just those things. I am something greater than that. And so that's how I find if people are able to practice some level of mindfulness, whether it comes through meditation or other ways, then they can catch themselves. Then they can catch when that negative self-talk is coming up, and they can pause and say, wait a minute, let me ask a question here. Is this really true? The way I'm thinking about myself, or what I'm imagining, some terrible catastrophic thing I think is going to happen. Is it really true? Is that realistic? And then you can start to challenge those beliefs and actually then start to change them. But if you're on autopilot and you're not even aware that you're having those thoughts, how are you ever going to change them?
Can't.
Right.
You have to get with it. I'm curious. Do you have any mediums that are clients?
You mean like a medium who communicates with spirits?
Mm-hmm.
I do, yes. They tend to be drawn to me because I myself also would identify as a medium and have had a fair amount of training in it and used to actually teach courses in this material. So yes, I tend to, and let's remember I'm in California. So we tend to have more of the woo-woo variety out here and a little bit more receptivity, I think, in general to it. But yes, people tend to be drawn to me, because I understand about that, and they have their own experiences they want to share and process and try to figure out how to work with their guides, spirits, whoever it is they're aware of and communicating with. So yes, that does happen.
Yeah. Well, that's an extra plus, I think, for them to come to you and have some help with that, so that they can see the other side better when it's their turn.
Yes.
Yeah. The look here, and it says there is a women's treatment center for co-occurring disorders and trauma. Do you have organization of that? And good. One of your things then.
So a couple of things. Yes, I am the clinical director at an organization called Avery Lane. It is a women's drug and alcohol treatment program where we specialize in addiction and co-occurring mental health disorders, specifically trauma. So a lot of our clients have anxiety, depression, PTSD, things like that. So we serve women in residential and outpatient treatments here in Northern California and Marin County. And then I have my own organization that I just started last year called Firebird Healing.
Right.
That is a trauma treatment center where we offer therapy groups, workshops, healing retreats, all different kinds of offerings, education. There's a lot of information on the website about trauma. We do a lot with YouTube and social media, just trying to educate people around what trauma is, how people can heal from it, and some of these more holistic therapies that I specialize in that I have found to be very powerful in healing. And I use them both at the rehab and at Firebird.
Wow, that's quite a service, I guess. If people don't see it and take advantage of it, they're missing out. That's how I see it.
I see it too, and and it's not for everyone, and sometimes people aren't ready yet, and that's okay too. Yeah.
Right. Now, if I'm thinking right, the first three digits of your phone is 415.
Yes.
That means San Francisco.
Yes.
And tell me what you're thinking about San Francisco with what's going on in the streets and things like that.
Oof. San Francisco is a rough place right now. It's not the place it used to be. Unfortunately, we have a huge problem.
Beautiful town, just a beautiful town.
The town itself, the nature, the fact that we have the redwood trees and the ocean and the bay and Golden Gate Park, the natural beauty of the city is incredible, and the hills and the views and everything. Unfortunately, what's happened with the people here and with the level of poverty we've had and homelessness and drug addiction, we're one of the epicenters of the fentanyl opioid crisis. Downtown San Francisco has gotten so bad that big companies are leaving, Nordstrom's or, places that have been here for a long, long time are moving. Hotels, I just read that two of the biggest hotels in downtown are allowing their buildings to be foreclosed on because they can't continue. Walgreens is shutting down because of all the theft. We have a lot of theft, cars getting broken into. So we have crime, we have homelessness, and we have poverty. And unfortunately, our city doesn't seem to be able to get a grip on these issues. So there's a lot of people leaving during the pandemic. A lot of people moved away from San Francisco. People are not wanting conventions, and business is not necessarily wanting to come into the city. With people telecommuting now, there's less people downtown, working downtown. So, and it's other parts of the city too, but primarily our downtown is really kind of degenerated and not in a good state. I personally try to avoid going there as much as possible, unfortunately.
Well, you should, if you want to keep your head on your a swivel.
Yes.
It's really a shame. They're all the TV cameras are on there and people and you see them shaking and trying to, put a needle in themselves and they can't find where the spot is. It's just, I feel sorry for them.
Yes.
Because there ought to be, 1,500 like you that you can patrol the streets. How's that?
If I could clone myself.
Yes, if you can clone yourself, you're right. You might help
you can put one of me on every corner.
Oh boy. Let me ask you, for my listeners, where do they find your book? They want to buy your book. They want to feel better. They're going to feel better after they read your book.
Well, the book itself has a landing page on the web, whatifyou'renot.com, no apostrophe, just what if you're not. And then the book is sold on Amazon. It's actually quite exciting. We are just getting ready to do the official launch for the audiobook and the Kindle version of the book July 1st. So we're gearing up for that. It's very exciting. We've had just the paperback up until now. And Recovery Bookstore, that's my publishers are Wholehearted and they specialize in publishing material for people in recovery. So you can also find the book at Recovery Bookstore.
Are you using Audible?
We will. That's what the audiobook, yes, it'll be on Audible coming July 1st. Yeah. That's
good. You're going to like that.
Yes.
You'll like it a lot. Let me say to you from me, I'm very glad that we were able to finally just at the line, the oxygen was going out of the room.
So, we made it.
That's right. We did. We made it, which is good. That always gives us something better to think about. I have a thing that whenever I sign off, I thank my listeners, my audience, all those people that want to listen to Searching for Integrity. And I want to thank you for being here and coming, Adriana. And I'm not going to go for the last one.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you also to your audience for tuning in today.
Yes, very much so. So my famous adioso in so long and happy trails to all until we meet again.